This is a movie, and this is real life.
The Hidden Camps of South Korea, das ist echt einfach.
This dark history of South Korea was something that not a lot of people knew about, and the forgotten story just
Bruder, ich habe
resurfaced.
diese TikToks gesehen mit den Bildern von den richtigen Squid Games und ich dachte, wäre fake, Bro, aber das gab's anscheinend wirklich.
Recently in the last few years. Did you know that a concentration camp called the South Korea's Holocaust or the real-life Squid Games area actually existed? And this is hopefully the last known
Ehrlich auf einer Insel.
dark camps, at least in South Korea. The story only became public and the public was outraged because of these famous documentaries Kokomu, 그것이 알고 싶다, and took on the story to find victims who never talked about this for over 25 years. It will shock you of how these places that you seem like you hear from
Haben die Kinder und so auch umgebracht, Digga? Das
World War II days in Auschwitz happened also in South Korea. And of course, to make these videos and take my full time researching these cases and to present it to you guys.
Hat die nicht auch mitgespielt? Die so gut schießen konnte.
I haven't shaved in a hot minute, oh god. To make these videos possible, I really want to say thank you to today's partner, Harry's. And yes, I'm looking hairy today. Harry's shaver is the only shaver that I use because it is so affordable yet high quality. And let me just show you guys my shaving routine. These premium German engineered shavers does not compare to those cheap ones.
Diese Premium-deutschen Ingenieursrasierer, Bruder, wofür Ingenieur?
That you get and you just throw it out. It goes really close to the hair root so that you have a clean shave. I use this everywhere, arms, armpits, legs, including bikini line. And I can't do my bikini line without this. Shave gel is also great for clean and smooth. My skin is now. Not raise the price. Shave here. And just by clicking on the part
2 Minuten 13 und sie hat über die Hälfte mehr über diesen Rasierer geredet als über die echten Squid Games. Jetzt geht's los.
This is a little 12-year-old named Chung back in 1982. Okay. He was just a kid, so bright, super smart in school. During tests, he would always get first or at least second place. A very good listener and even took care of his sick mother by making food for her. Something that might have been such a big task for a 12-year-old. But he did it anyways because he was the son of the family and the son was all that this family had. But one day in 1982, it was getting late and Chung never returned home. Come to find out, Chung ended up going to the nearby city with a neighborhood ajashi. Of course, being 12 and you're going to the city, you were fascinated by a lot of things. There's a lot of things to watch, to eat. He was at the arcade room and it was such a great day for him until the neighborhood man just left him alone for a second when 2 policemen approached him and asked him, "Why are you here? Are you alone?" The policeman told him, "Come with us to the police office. We're
Nein, die Polizei steckte da mit drinne? Was laberst du?
Going to take you home." And of course, being 12 years old, naive, and thinking that these are policemen, obviously I could trust them, he ended up following them to the station. Little did he know that this would change his life forever. From then on, time to time, children would just go missing, vanished without a trace. This is Miss Lee, and in 1983, she was just 7 years old. Her little brother and herself were out, and again the police would approach them and they just followed. After being in the police station for a couple hours, they told them that they would take them home, and as soon as they left the station there was a white van waiting for them. I mean, legit, starting from the van, it really reminded me of the movie, because in the movie, you had these secret vans that would just take people and they would vanish without a trace. These kids were then forced into the dark van with no explanation, and they realized they weren't alone. There were many other kids and adults and people just mixed.
Wir brauchen Untertitel auf Deutsch, okay? Untertitel.
Shoved into this tiny van. When they got to these unknown locations, from here, this is when hell started. Of course, if not all, like a lot of the kids were screaming and crying and telling them like, where am I? I want to go home. But the minute you would cry, question, or complain, the guards would viciously start beating these kids up. When they entered this mysterious building, the victims claimed that it really looked like a prison cell. There was heavy steel doors that only locked from the outside, and inside of these long rooms were rows and rows of bunk beds. It was enough to fit at least from 80 to 100 people. Like, again, do you see like a little bit of the coincidences? Even more shockingly, they noticed that everybody was wearing the same uniforms, and the uniform color was blue with stripes on it. They were also forced to shave all their heads. Nobody can have long hair, and they were stripped of their name and their identity. Now they were being called by numbers. They had to respond to the command officers as if they were in the military, and there were also divisions like in the military. One woman who was only 7 at the time when she was taken away even remembers that there were kids and babies younger than her. After changing their clothes, they went to bed for the night. Of course, I'm sure like nobody could probably sleep that day. And at 5 a.m. sharp, the alarms started to ring. Everyone started to walk outside. Of course, and these kids who arrived, like they weren't told anything to what to do, and they just had to follow what everybody else was doing, those people that were there before they arrived. When they went outside, those new kids, new people that arrived were so shocked because it wasn't just them here, it was literally thousands and thousands of people.
Zeig mal, wie das aussah. Ich würde gerne die Bilder dazu sehen.
Concrete walls, and on top of that, even if you tried to escape, there also given very little food, and everyone was.
Die Frage ist, woher haben die Aufnahmen? Wurden die einfach herausgegeben? Ja, wir haben es gemacht. Hier. Wir haben noch die Aufnahmen. Wer will gucken? Real Life Squid Games. Wir posten auch auf Netflix. Die echten. Die echten Squid.
Super skinny. I mean, nobody had nutrition in their body. People even remember some had to eat whatever they can find, including.
Boah, Gänsehaut-Theorie Ekin. Eken schreibt, stellt euch mal vor, der Gewinner der Spiele ist der Regisseur bzw. der Erfinder von den richtigen Squid Games.
Rats that they found. Now there was also even a female section, and even worse, there were a lot of assaults. When females would get pregnant, they remembered these doctors coming in and injecting them with unknown substances. And witnesses say that all of a sudden, like throughout a couple days, the female that was pregnant would no longer have their baby. And assaults did not just happen to females, it also happened to males as well. And there's these drawings of what the victims remember and what they had to go through. And these details of what the victims had to endure is so graphic that, you know, they themselves also, most of them don't talk about it because it is horrific. So what was this place? What is this random hell place? Why were all these people being gathered? Was it really like for fun and games? And why did no one know about it or try to save these people? So it turns out this place was called 형제복지원, or Brothers Welfare Center. It was supposed to be known
Brothers Welfare Center, das stand auch unter den TikToks.
To gather homeless people, people who didn't have a place to go, like didn't have families.
Es sollte eigentlich da sein, um Obdachlose zu sammeln.
AKA people who were deemed unfit for society. It was the government's program giving these people a second chance, sweeping them off the streets, including like disabled people, and putting them into this welfare center where they are supposed to have jobs, they have an education, they go to church, you know, they get food. It was advertised on TV as this amazing place that the government gave as a second chance for those who had no homes. But 70% of these people that were put into these camps weren't people who were just homeless. They were like random people that the police or whoever would just force them in. This is Mr. Choi. He was taken at the age of 14, and he remembers the guards SA them in front of everybody. Like, these guards did not care. This happened in front of everybody during the time when they were supposed to go to sleep.
Aber es wäre geil, wenn sowas in Real Life geben würde, weil die Leute sind doch obdachlos und sterben sowieso. Dann kann man viel Geld verdienen bei Squid Game. Meinst du das gerade ernst, Bruder? Oder nur weil man obdachlos ist, heißt das nicht, dass man wirklich stirbt. Also jeder Mensch stirbt, aber nur weil du obdachlos bist, stirbst du nicht einfach direkt.
He says that it was like a wild animal safari there. There was absolutely no humane part of this at all. And people did try to flee. There were many people who tried to flee, but they claimed that actually almost nobody was able to flee because the guards would catch them and soon they would find out their friend who tried to flee yesterday never came back. And that's because the punishment was often death. I think the saddest part about hearing the victims, Mr. Chung says that when, all these things were happening to him, especially SA, he says that, as an adult now, in a way feels shame. He feels shameful that he went through this when it wasn't at all his fault. Now, how about the disabled people who were taken there? What happened to them? And the witnesses claim that there was a zone where disabled people were put into, and they claim that this was literally a zombie zone. They called it the zombie zone, literally, because the disabled people were actually kept all drugged up. They were all in like a zombie-like state and they can't fend for themselves at all. 2 years like this passed and Chung now became 14 years old. Surprisingly, one day he noticed from far away a very familiar face, which was his own father. So parents of kids like Chung who all of a sudden went missing will be devastated. And when Chung's father found out that his kid was gone for years, he leaned on alcohol. He could not go on with his life knowing that his son vanished.
Was
and the police couldn't do
du? Der Sohn wurde entführt, sein Vater hat ihn verloren, hat ihn nicht mehr wiedergefunden, ist Alkoholiker geworden, hat selber sein eigenes Leben quasi aus den Händen verloren, ist auf der Straße gelandet und wurde auch dahin gebracht. Oh mein Gott. Und dann hat er seinen eigenen Vater gesehen, weil er auch als Obdachloser aufgesammelt wurde, weil er Alkoholiker wurde, weil er seinen Sohn verloren hat. Gänsehautgeschichte, Bruder.
do anything about it. So Chung's father says that multiple times he went inside the police station, begged for his son to be found. But guess what? The police, looking at Mr. Chung's father and him being drunk and like screaming and yelling, he was also now considered unfit for the society and was forced into this camp. And this is Mr. Chung at 50 years old now talking about this incident for the first time. He admits that rather than feeling excited or welcome to meet his father there, he felt ashamed, embarrassed, and especially looking at his father who have aged so quickly, so much, within such a short time frame because of exhaustion. His youthful father was like no longer there. When nobody was looking, Chung's father found his son and he actually handed him over this old rice cake that he's been saving. This rice cake was given during like a Korean holiday and only one was given to each person. So his own father, being hungry himself, was saving this for his own son. I mean, it even just shows you how through this traumatic
Mega Gänsehaut.
people like from afar.
Gänsehaut.
And you notice that money box position. So yeah, kind of he seems a little untouchable. And when Mr. were not able to get any interview with him. It was said that until Mr. Park passed away, he lived as a very wealthy man. With the money that he made from the program, he bought like other buildings and you know,
Digga,
I mean, this family is
krass.
pretty rich. In order to
Die haben auch Geld bekommen, wenn sie da gewonnen haben bei... Oh mein Gott, Bruder.